Hello and welcome. Welcome to this interesting exploration of how the reality of our lives, the reality of the world, got created, and how perhaps updating might happen. Updating the code that runs our lives, from me to we consciousness. Looking at where we are today in the world, we can't keep living in me first. As the we the world vision says, we can no longer afford to live in a me-based society, where people's actions don't consider the consequences for others. Rather, we wish to achieve a cultural shift towards we consciousness, where from individuals to CEOs, from politicians to all forms of media, people begin to expand their circles of caring, concern and empathy, and prioritise the common good and the well-being of all. The goal, a world that works for us all. Let me now introduce myself. My name is Robin Yourston. I'm a leadership coach based in London. I started working life as an electronics engineer apprentice in August 1963 in Edinburgh, Scotland. I was 1 year older than the transistor. I still am. I then joined IBM UK in 1967 as a computer hardware engineer, switching to software engineering in 1976. Still in IBM, I switched to people, way more complex than computer hardware and software, in 1990 to a leadership advisory role. Then organisational change, coaching and facilitation in 1993. I spent the last 3 or 4 years of my 38 with IBM as a full-time facilitator and coach to execs, leaders, managers and teams. I loved it. I left in 2005, formed my own company, Gifted and Resourceful People Limited, GNRP, and have been working in the field of coaching facilitation ever since, in corporations, charities, startups, also with school teachers, ministers, a wide variety of people and organisations. In my experience as a coach since 1993, I've learned a fundamental truth. The issues and problems people have are never about work. They're about relationships and communication. Relationships and communication with others and with ourselves. We're social beings. Of course, I still notice these issues within myself, and I'm on my never-ending journey of learning to live more consciously. I'm now focusing on conscious living and how the journey towards that really helps people address those issues and problems with communication and relationships. As a consequence of that, it really helps organisations. Any organisation where people interact, which is probably them all, helps those organisations become more conscious. I'm also now closely linked with Humanity's Team, another global organisation whose mission is to make conscious living prevalent worldwide by 2040. The aim of this video is to trigger insights, aha moments, conversations to emerge as we explore the journey of how we came to be who we are and have created what we have created in the world today. I will share here details of that journey and also a little bit about some of the baggage we pick up on the way. Let me begin with a statement. Humans created the reality we see today in the world, in economics, media, business and politics. Well, actually, it wasn't humans as such. It was our fundamental inner programming that created it, our inner microcode. That is where we will start the exploration. Before we dive in, let me answer this question, probably on everyone's mind. Why should I care? Because the inner microcode runs much of your day, silently shaping what you notice, how you interpret people and events, what you feel and what you do, at home, at work and across the cultures. In the next hour, you'll see how it's written, and you'll leave with the simple steps to start updating it. We will cover a lot in this, and there is a handout, notes, as well as a complete paper on the subject available to you. Let's begin understanding how that inner code works, starting with a smartphone. Have you ever marveled at the capabilities of your smartphone? This small device can make calls, send emails, host video conferences, connect to social media, browse the web, run AI applications, play podcasts and music, access dictionaries, guide meditation, take notes, manage bank accounts, track fitness, provide navigation, plan trips, hail rides, control smart homes, track parcels, rent cars, check weather, book events, translate language. The list is endless. If we could travel back to 1963 when I began my career in electronics and describe these capabilities to someone surrounded by hulking TV sets and Bakelite telephones wired to walls, they'd think we're mad. Yet here we are living this reality. So how does a phone accomplish all this? At its core, a smartphone is hardware running software, with the help of an operating system, iOS, Android, and a multitude of applications, apps. Developers write programs in human-readable code, if this then that, but hardware can't read human language. The code is compiled into machine code, ones and zeros, the language the hardware understands. There's now a crucial step, turning those bits, those ones and zeros, into physical actions in the circuitry. Add, divide, store, transmit, display, record, many, many more. The firmware microcode is a silent translator that connects the software in the form of machine code to the hardware, running below the level of user awareness, seamlessly connecting the software instructions to hardware actions, creating the reality of sending a text or taking a photo, etc. Why start here? Because we have something similar. Each of us runs internal microcode, our subconscious programming that takes inputs from the world and from our thoughts and feelings and creates the reality of our lives. It operates below conscious awareness. Researchers estimate that much of what we think, say and do each day is driven by this programming. For example, decision making. Cognitive neuroscience research indicates that about 90 to 95% of daily decisions are made subconsciously, with conscious thought accounting for only 5 to 10%. Habits and behaviour. The subconscious automates our actions and habits, guiding behaviour based on stored experiences, learned associations, and emotional conditioning. A quote from Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist known for developing analytical psychology and his studying of the subconscious. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So how does running this subconscious microcode play out for us in our understanding of reality? Looking now then at how we understand reality. When we are born, there's just this big mess of reality, what is out there, which we don't understand. Just observe a newborn. They can't even focus properly. That takes a couple of weeks. At the beginning of life's journey, if you like, we are just pure awareness and are motivated to learn how to understand things. We are learning, we as parents, they are learning, we as parents are teaching them. The brain, by the way, learns by repetition. It learns what gets repeated. Acquiring language is a good example. A story here. My great-nephew from San Diego, when he was around 2.5 years old and was here in London, loved the trains and the buses are all red here in London, and he was learning colours. The only colour he could say, however, was lello for yellow. His parent would ask him, "What colour is that bus going past?" And he would say lello, and they would say, "No, that's red." So he understood there were colours, but not what they were actually called. He was learning, being programmed, if you like. Now, of course, he can say them all. He's understood how to do that, how to represent the different wavelengths of visible light, distinguish between them, and label them using language. That sophisticated use of language gives us a power many animals on the planet do not have. We teach children. The human brain has the ability to learn language. That enables us to learn what we then come to believe. Do this, don't do that. We teach our children, this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, even though reality may not actually be like that. We get programmed, the brain learning by repetition. There is no good and bad in reality, it is just what it is. A major component, building block of that programming is belief. Let's explore that. I came upon this statement many years ago. Everyone knows what a belief is until they're asked to define it. What is a belief? I was fascinated. What is a belief? Many have definitions around what we do with them, but not what they actually are. I thought about this a lot and came up with this definition. The belief is an internally held representation of a lens through which we perceive reality. We have our lenses, our beliefs, which we are mainly taught. We don't actually know reality, we build a perception of it, a picture of reality, a representation in our brain. We build that representation using the lenses of our beliefs. And note, it is not specifically what our visual lenses or auditory lenses, for example, are sensing that creates our representation. We use the lenses of our beliefs to choose which data, information to pay attention to and pass into the representation we are building of reality at this time, and doing this subconsciously. We delete, we distort, we generalize what the actual reality of what is, and build our representation. Then we operate as if what we have built is reality. We get taught, programmed what to believe as a baby, a toddler, a child, and those beliefs then become the lenses we use to build our representation of reality. Each of our built representations are similar in many ways, of course, and differ, sometimes hugely. My lenses have built something different to others. Take any political debate. For example, here in the UK, Brexit, stay in the European Union or leave it, for and against. We can and do build fundamental different perceptions, different representations of what is. Oh, and different perceptions of what happened in the past, what was. It's not reality that shapes us, but the lens through which your brain views the world that shapes your reality. There is that saying in English, seeing is believing. I saw that, so I believe it. Actually, it is not seeing is believing. It is believing is seeing. You will see what your lenses permit you and cause you to see. See what you believe. Perception is all we know, not reality. Not one single person on the planet knows reality. What we each know is the representation we build of it, using the lenses of our beliefs, built from our experience, that we are taught by culture, by families, by schools, by peer groups, by etc., etc. What we are doing from the moment we are born, in fact, before we are born, creating an internally held representation of reality, what is. At a very young age, before we have fully formed beliefs, we, as I said earlier, operate in pure awareness. As we experience life, we begin to learn our beliefs, our lenses. As language is acquired, the lenses, the beliefs become more structured. Now that we're aligned on what beliefs are, lenses that shape reality, let's zoom out one level. If beliefs are the lenses, then our internal microcode is, if you like, the lens factory within us that both creates the lenses and then, using its learned default settings, applies those lenses automatically in every context. Moving now into how and why those beliefs and lenses get manufactured in the factory. Let's go through first what happens within us as reality, what is, does or doesn't do, what it does or doesn't do, starting with the inputs. Inputs. The world, the reality, what is, our body, thoughts and emotions and feelings. The outputs are the consequences and the reinforcement or sometimes modification of beliefs. Between the inputs and the outputs we have the beliefs, the lenses, those learned default settings that build our perception of what we notice. That creates for us our interpretation. Those lenses we apply create the story for us, which triggers emotion. That now arises from that story and the feelings associated with that story, leading to the representation we create, the lived representation, our fused experience. From this we move to action, what we now think, feel, say, do, avoid. What drives that which happens between the inputs and the outputs? The internal microcode. It controls those beliefs, perception, interpretation, emotion, representation we create and our action, reaction, all happening subconsciously below the level of our awareness. We operate, if you like, with autopilot engaged, and it is piloting our life, not us. We've explored here what it does. Now let's explore how and why that internal microcode gets created. During our early years, our brains are uniquely primed for learning. This period, often referred to as the critical period in developmental psychology, is characterized by heightened neuroplasticity and rapid synaptic formation. Children pre-birth to around 7 years old spend much of their time in a theta brainwave state, 4 to 8 Hz, which is associated with heightened suggestibility, creativity, and the formation of deep-seated beliefs. We are creating release 1 of our microcode, which is formed during this time through several key mechanisms. Repetition. Repeated experiences and messages become deeply ingrained beliefs. Our brains learn by repetition. What gets repeated gets learned. It doesn't really care what it learns, if you like, in childhood. It just learns what gets repeated. If you think as adults how we learn something new, for example, driving, playing a musical instrument, we learn by practicing, repeating. Emotional intensity. Experiences with strong emotional content, positive or negative, are more likely to form lasting beliefs. Observational learning. Children adopt beliefs by observing and imitating others, particularly caregivers. Reward and punishment. Beliefs associated with rewarded behaviours and punishment we receive tend to be reinforced. Survival adaptations. Many beliefs form as coping mechanisms to navigate the child's environment. There are potential benefits to us as children in forming beliefs that we form. At the core of the beliefs, scripts and patterns we learn lies a set of intrinsic desires that every human being wants and needs. To be part of something larger than themselves, to be paid attention to be listened to be respected, to be loved, to matter. These intrinsic desires and needs map directly to the higher levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Let's now look at that. Mapping between the 6 desires and Maslow's hierarchy. Number 1, to be part of something larger than themselves is connected to self-actualization. To be paid attention to is related to esteem. To be listened to, part of social connection, acceptance and belonging. Equates to love and belonging. To be respected directly correlates with esteem from others. To be loved. Correlation with love, belonging, needs, finally, to matter. Aligns with reaching one's full potential, self-actualization. Note, these needs also interact across the levels. For example, being listened to can support both belongingness and esteem needs. The lower levels of Maslow's hierarchy, safety and physiological needs, aren't directly addressed in the 6 desires, as they focus on basic survival needs rather than social psychological needs. Basic survival needs will of course also play a part in forming our beliefs if as a child those basic survival needs are compromised. So how does this play out for us in childhood? This table shows the life-limiting beliefs that can be and are formed in Release 1 of our microcode. Tied to the intrinsic human needs we've just been talking about and highlighting the benefits to us as children, I'll talk to a few of them. In my experience as a leadership coach, these are very common. I'm not good enough. To be part of something larger, to be paid attention to. The potential benefit of believing I'm not good enough is striving to be better in order to be part of something larger, seeking attention and validation from others. I must be perfect. To be respected, to matter. Potential benefit of believing I must be perfect is gaining respect and admiration from others, feeling like they matter when they achieve perfection. I must please everyone. To be loved, to be part of something larger. The potential benefit of believing I must please everyone is feeling loved and accepted by others, being a part of a harmonious group. I'm not lovable. To be loved, to be paid attention to be listened to. The potential benefit of believing I'm not lovable is protecting oneself from the pain of not being loved, avoiding the risk of being ignored or not listened to. I'm not important. To be part of something larger, to be listened to be respected. The potential benefit of believing I'm not important is avoiding the pressure of being relied upon, protecting oneself from the pain of not being listened to. I am responsible for others' happiness, also commonly known as people-pleasing. To be loved, to be part of something larger. The potential benefit of believing I am responsible for others' happiness is feeling loved and needed by others, being part of something larger by contributing to others' well-being. From a child's perspective then, these beliefs may serve as coping mechanisms to fulfill their intrinsic desires, needs, or protect themselves from the pain of unmet needs at the time. For example, striving for perfection, as I said, may help a child feel respected and like they matter, while avoiding failure may protect them from feeling unimportant or unloved. However, it's crucial to recognize that these beliefs, while serving a purpose in childhood, can become detrimental, life-limiting in adulthood. As adults, it's essential to find healthy ways to meet these fundamental needs and challenge the reframe the life-limiting beliefs that no longer serve us as adults. These beliefs, whether limiting or empowering, become the cornerstone in creating our personal reality. They influence how we interpret events how we respond to challenges, and even what opportunities we perceive as available to us. For instance, the person who believes I'm not good enough might consistently undervalue their abilities and shy away from opportunities, while someone who believes I am capable might approach challenges with confidence and resilience. It's important to note that this microcode isn't inherently negative. Positive, empowering beliefs can also be programmed during this time. The key is recognizing that these early formed beliefs have a profound and lasting impact on our lives. The formation of release 1 of our microcode is also influenced by broader factors such as culture, socioeconomic status, and historical context. These factors contribute to the complex tapestry of beliefs that form our individual worldview, how we perceive and work with reality, what is. How does this programming play out for us? The subconscious mind, which houses our childhood programming, is estimated to control, as I have mentioned, 90 to 95% of our thoughts and actions. This means that the majority of our daily life is guided by these deeply rooted beliefs and patterns, often without our conscious input or awareness. This subconscious operation of childhood programming operates through several mechanisms, and this first one is key. Selective attention. Our beliefs act as filters, causing us to pay attention to information that confirms our existing beliefs, while overlooking contradictory evidence. Interpretation. We interpret events and experiences through the lens of our beliefs, often distorting reality to fit our preconceived notions. Emotional responses. Our beliefs trigger emotional responses to situations, which in turn influence our behaviours. Decision making. Our subconscious beliefs guide our decisions, often leading us to make choices that reinforces our existing worldview. Behaviour patterns. Repetitive behaviours and habits are often driven by subconscious programming, leading to automatic reactions in familiar situations, leading to an addiction, if you like, to our thought patterns and behaviours. Why our thought patterns and behaviours feel sticky? It's like we're addicted to them. The term addiction in this context refers to the compulsive nature of our ingrained thought patterns and behaviours. Much like a substance addiction, we can become dependent on these familiar ways of thinking and acting, even when they no longer serve us actively or actively harm our well-being. This manifests in several ways. There's comfort in familiarity. Even negative thought patterns can feel comfortable because they're familiar, leading us to resist change. Neurochemical reinforcement. Certain thought patterns and behaviours trigger the release of neurochemicals like dopamine, creating a reward cycle that reinforces the pattern. Identity attachment. We often become attached to our patterns as part of our identity, making it challenging to let them go. Automatic repetition. Like any addiction, these patterns become automatic, repeating themselves without conscious intent. Withdrawal symptoms. Attempting to change ingrained patterns can lead to discomfort and anxiety, similar to withdrawal symptoms in substance addiction. This addiction to thought patterns and behaviours, of course, remains with us as adults, all part of the microcode. So how does this microcode we each created with very valid and necessary reasoning as a child play out in adulthood? As we transition from childhood to adulthood, the issue is release 1 of the microcode formed in our early years doesn't simply disappear. Instead, it has become deeply ingrained in our subconscious mind, operating as the autopilot that guides our perceptions and decisions and behaviours without our conscious awareness. I'm sure you've all been in meetings and interactions where it is like we're back in the school playground. So let's now look at thoughts arising from release 1 of the microcode as adults, our adulthood autopilot. How our learned life-limiting beliefs generate thoughts in negative and positive experiences. Here are the life-limiting beliefs again, and note this is not a complete definitive list. You may well have formed different ones as well as some of these. Now, the thought patterns generated when the experience is negative. For self-doubt, I knew I wasn't good enough. This proves I'm a failure. For perfectionism, I made a mistake. I'm a failure. I'll never be perfect. People-pleasing, I've let others down. I must try harder to please everyone. Feeling unlovable. No one will ever love me. I'm unworthy of love and affection. Feeling powerless. I've no control over my life. I'm helpless to change my situation. Fear of failure. I've failed again. I'm a failure. I must avoid risk to prevent failure. Feeling unimportant. My needs don't matter. I'm insignificant and unimportant. Need to be strong. Asking for help is a sign of weakness. I must always appear strong and in control. Responsible for others' happiness. I've failed to make others happy. Their unhappiness is my fault. And interestingly, what these patterns are when the experience is positive. For self-doubt, this success was just luck. I'm still not good enough. I don't deserve this positive outcome. Perfectionism. I could have done better. This is not perfect. I need to work harder to avoid any flaws or mistakes. People-pleasing. I should prioritize others' needs before my own. I can't enjoy this success because someone else might feel bad. Feeling unlovable. They're just being nice. They don't really love me. I'm not worthy of this love and affection. Feeling powerless. This success was due to external factors, not my own abilities. I still don't have control over my life and outcomes. Fear of failure. I got lucky this time. I'll probably fail next time. I should stick to safe and easy tasks to avoid potential failures. Feeling unimportant. My accomplishments don't really matter. I don't deserve to celebrate or prioritize my own success. Need to be strong. I can't show any weakness or vulnerability, even in success. Asking for help or support would diminish my achievement. Responsible for others' happiness. I should focus on making others happy instead of enjoying my own success. My achievement is not as important as ensuring others are satisfied. Moving now to summarise then, release 1. Summarising then, release 1 of our microcode. The autopilot nature of these beliefs means they continue to influence our lives until we become aware of them and actively work to change them. Recognizing these patterns is the first step towards breaking free from the autopilot mode and moving towards more conscious, intentional living. In the next section, we'll explore how we can awaken to these subconscious patterns and begin the journey towards greater self-awareness, personal growth, and live more consciously. How we can stop the autopilot and build and install release 2 of the microcode, the observer. The observer. This device is going to be the single most important tool on your journey, and if you take nothing else at all from what is shared here other than this, then I as the author will feel creating this was worthwhile. Like Anthony de Mello says in his book Awareness, no one can show you a technique, no one can really help you. What I will do is share with you what worked for me. To create your observer, imagine an entity that is able to hear all your thoughts, see what you are seeing, and through doing that, it can tell you what you're paying attention to and what you are feeling, what emotion is present within you. If you like, it is a reporter watching you and listening to you very intently. And when you ask it, it is able to report what it notices you are feeling, thinking, paying attention to. The reason we need an observer, is to catch ourselves following the patterns of our microcode release 1 in order to become consciously aware of what they are, so that, for instance, we can choose to change them. It is important to be detached and not become absorbed by or overwhelmed by what the observer is noticing. For instance, depression. If you're saying to yourself, I am depressed, that is not observing. You need to be able to say, there is depression within me, or there is sadness in me. Interestingly, what you are doing here is creating a brain pattern called the observer. And as for most patterns stored in our minds, your brain needs to learn how to do this new thing. To do that, it needs to practice so that the new pattern will get laid down. Remember, the brain learns by repetition. Looking now at building and installing the observer, we begin by waking up to your programmed patterns, which is akin to becoming aware that we're dreaming while we're still in the dream state. It involves recognition, noticing recurring thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in our daily lives. Curiosity, developing a genuine interest in understanding the origins of these patterns. non-judgment, observing our patterns without criticism, understanding they were formed as coping mechanisms and were really helpful to us as a child. Presence, cultivating the ability to be present and observe our thoughts and behaviours in real time. This awakening is not a one-time event, but a continuous process of deepening awareness. As we become more conscious of our patterns, we create space between the stimulus and response, allowing for more intentional choices. To do this, we create and install our observer. The observer is a light, friendly attention, just noticing, a calm, noticing self with no judgment. It creates space between stimulus and response, and in that space, the observer's job is to spot the default lens from release 1 as it comes online before you act, and create a sliver of space that lets us choose one small useful next step rather than react on autopilot. To get started with the observer, when you're driving or riding a bike or a horse or just walking or running, ask yourself, as you come to various points of the journey, what am I paying attention to here? What am I noticing? In my experience, what I pay attention to at a roundabout in a city here in UK, it's very different than what I pay attention to on a motorway or a freeway. It may help to keep a journal of your thoughts to really establish the observer and record what is observed in this. Note down the situation, the thoughts arising, the feelings arising, and how you behaved, acted, reacted. As you learn to and remember to invoke the observer, what do you notice about your thoughts, thinking in various situations? Are they positive, mostly negative? What beliefs do you notice kicking in? Another name for this observer is awareness. We are accessing our inner awareness, self-awareness, and that becomes our new I, our new identity. We learn to pause and ask, what am I aware of in this? Maybe what is my real I aware of in this? What are the emotions, feelings being generated within me? What are my learned beliefs about this? What are my thoughts about this? How do I choose to respond to what is here? We learn, in fact, I am not my thoughts, my thought system, and hence I can get out of microcode release 1, autopilot install release 2, and take charge. The journey, however, does not stop there. It is a never-ending journey of learning, becoming more aware, more conscious. Looking at practical steps to do this now then. Conscious leadership of our lives. The steps shared here are ways, and there are many, many more, for us to learn to become more conscious, more aware. You may already do some of these. If not, then please do pick one and research how to do it. What they have in common for me is they each ask us to become conscious, aware, present in the moment as we perform them. Daily reflection. Set aside time each day for self-reflection and introspection, examination of our mental and emotional processes. Mindfulness practice. Develop a regular mindfulness or meditation practice. Journaling. Use journaling to explore your thoughts, feelings, and patterns. Seek feedback. Regularly ask for honest feedback from trusted friends or mentors. Continuous learning. Read books, attend workshops, or work with a coach to further your personal development. Body awareness. Pay attention to physical sensations as clues to your emotional state. Gratitude practice. Cultivate gratitude to shift your focus to the positive aspects of life. Conscious communication. Practice speaking your truth with compassion and listening consciously and deeply to others. Regular self-care. Prioritize activities that nourish your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Service to others. Find ways to contribute to your community or causes you care about. Now, bringing all this to a close. Going back to where we started and looking at where we are today in the world, let me repeat. We can't keep living me first. As We the World vision says, we can no longer afford to live in a me-based society where people's actions don't consider the consequences for others. Rather, we wish to achieve a cultural shift towards we consciousness, where From individuals to CEOs, from politicians to all forms of media, people begin to expand their circles of caring and concern and empathy and prioritise the common good and the well-being of all. The goal, a world that works for us all. Humans created the reality we see today in economics, media, business and politics. Well, actually, it wasn't humans as such. It was our fundamental inner programming that created it. Our inner microcode. Hopefully now you have come to understand a bit about how that happens and why, and how we can update from release 1, our autopilot, to release 2, the observer, to release 3 and beyond, as we learn to become more conscious, more aware. Remember I asked at the beginning, why should I care? Because this inner microcode runs much of your day, silently shaping what you notice, how you interpret people and events, what you feel and what you do, at home, at work and across cultures. I hope you now have a better understanding of this. And finally, the journey to conscious leadership of our lives is ongoing and deeply personal. It requires courage, commitment and compassion. As we become more conscious leaders of our own lives, we not only experience greater fulfillment and authenticity, but also positively impact those around us. Our personal growth ripples out, contributing to the collective evolution of consciousness in our families, communities, and in the world at large. And remember, the goal isn't to completely overwrite release 1. We can never do that. Rather, it is to consciously develop release 2 and future releases as a more evolved operating system that can choose when to use release 1's automatic functions and when to implement more conscious, intentional responses. In this way, we move from me to we consciousness. Let me close now with a poem I wrote in 2022, The Journey to Awareness. We are born as pure awareness within us. We are not aware the journey is to return to that. We are driven to survive and have instincts to help us. We are curious, we are learning. We are learning how to move, to stand, to walk, to eat, to drink, to run, to talk, to think. We are operating in a hypnotic state. Our brainwaves are theta. We're being taught, programmed with knowledge, beliefs and skills. We're experiencing emotions. We're learning from our families and parents, patterns and scripts. We're becoming who they, consciously or not, are programming us to be. We're driven by the need to survive. We're fearful of abandonment the most. We are learning patterns and scripts that become our life's drivers. We're learning and becoming more certain. We're learning how to socialize with others. We're learning what our culture is subliminally teaching. We're evolving. Our brainwaves are changing. We're becoming more conscious. We're becoming more and more certain of our ways of thinking. We're living now as the illusory persona, the ego, we were taught to be. We are not aware yet of who we really are. We are running our lives 95% in automatic as who we've learned to be. We are now becoming vaguely aware this is not who we really are. We are beginning to wake up and know we need to change. We are now searching for that change. We're searching out there where we were programmed to search. We are thinking the pathway to our growth lies with others and out there. We're unaware that the pathway lies within us. We're unaware the pathway to our growth, to that pure awareness we were born with, within us, the oneness. We're unaware until we fully wake up. It is a never-ending journey of learning, becoming more conscious. Thank you for your time and attention. I wish you well on your journey. Thank you.